Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the American Pop Culture Series channel. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. So, it is the second episode of season 29, and the ladies open up discussing the Epstein documents, including the birthday book. So, there is this message allegedly, and of course, I have to say alleged. Sunny says it multiple times because they don't want to get sued again. ABC doesn't want to get sued again, but allegedly, this card or this birthday tribute from Donald Trump was found on the estate from Jeffrey Epstein. And, there's been so many pictures of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together. And Donald Trump has already been convicted of SA when it comes to multiple women. In fact, one of his court cases against E. Jean Carroll has just been upheld by the court. So he needs to pay her that money according to the court's ruling. But however, all of the ladies were just basically saying that, this has been become a bipartisan issue. And a lot of Republicans, including Republican women such as, Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene, have sided with a lot of their Democratic counterparts in Congress, basically saying that, a lot of people have said they wanted to see the Epstein files released. And if this proves true, then the public needs to know, because the presidency and, the congressional offices are all public offices. And while the opening shots show, like, Brian Daniels and Speaker Mike Johnson kind of, shirking away and walking away from the press, asking pressing questions regarding, Donald Trump's signature, like Byron, he says that, I saw Donald Trump sign many things and this doesn't match. But when they put the pictures up, if it's not a complete match, it's absolutely close. And so I agree with Alyssa here. She basically says that, if Donald Trump is completely innocent, if he's completely, just in the clear of all of these allegations, wouldn't he want the truth to come out? Like, wouldn't you want someone to completely clear your name? Like, that's what happens often in defamation lawsuits, right? One, they're very hard to prove, but if it can be proven in the discovery process, then that's a win for the defendant. And so a lot of times people who are innocent, right, because in our legal system, you're innocent until proven guilty, and you have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But a lot of times people are, glad to have that discovery process just so that their name can be cleared. And so I absolutely agree, with Alyssa and the rest of the panel as well. But Alyssa made a very, poignant statement that if this were, something that Donald Trump wanted his base and a lot of the Republicans throughout the country want them to move forward and move past, wouldn't he want everything to come out? Wouldn't he want to be as transparent as possible? Because, to be honest, this is the one thing that, of course, they call Donald Trump the Teflon Don. He's gotten, past the 2 impeachments, the 34 felonies, the January 6th insurrection, all these things. I feel like people, they just didn't care about, the past bankruptcies that he had, the, stealing from the children's charities, allegedly, the multiple divorces, the SA allegations, all of these things, right? People are like, oh, that's small, small potatoes. But with the Epstein files, for whatever reason, this is sticking to Teflon Don. And so I agree with Alyssa. I feel like this is an instance where the Republican Party, even if, Speaker Mike Johnson and the rest of the Republicans that they showed in the clip, with the exception of the ladies, and kudos to, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace for being on the right side of the law, being on the right side of truth, right? We don't always agree. And if you guys are new here, I'm not a registered Republican or a registered Democrat. I'm an independent. So I always try to look at things objectively. And, in this instance, I have to applaud. I don't always agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She said some outlandish things in the past. Or Nancy Mace. Her obsession with bathrooms, in my opinion, is very weird. But with the case of, SA victims of any type of harm, right, especially intimate harm, you want to stand with those. That type of trauma, people, don't move on from quickly. And so I'm really glad to see that multiple women. This isn't just like one or two. These are like multiple women have testified against Donald Trump, against Jeffrey Epstein, against Ghislaine Maxwell. And Sunny brings up a good point as well, right? Like if this was just a big nothing burger and there was nothing to see here, Ghislaine Maxwell would not still be in prison. And so I really truly hope that we do find out in the future the truth about what is in these Epstein files, because the things that we have seen are heavily redacted, and there's just been a lot of speculation. So I don't know if we will be able to really find out the truth until after Donald Trump leaves office. And speaking of that, right, that's a perfect segue into the next uh, segment that they have on the show, which they invite Supreme Court Justice Sonia. I always mess up her last name. It's Sotomayor, I think. She's from Latin descent, and she's there to promote her children's book. But they do ask her, and of course, Supreme Court justices can't really go into detail about too many things. But Alyssa asks about the 22nd Amendment, because Trump and his team are saying that it's possible he could go for a third term. There's been Trump 2028 merchandise that's been made, and so Supreme Court Justice Sonia, I'll just call her Sonia S. But she says that it's never been challenged before. No other president has tried to kind of usurp the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States is the highest legal document that we have. And so, she's like, that needs to be respected and honored. So again, we will see. We're only, 9 months into the Trump presidency, the second term. So we have no idea. But I feel like it was a good question. And then, Sunny talks to her about the the decision that the Supreme Court just made to uphold racial profiling, which I just, the regression of this country's civil rights and human rights is heartbreaking. That's why I just sighed. But it's just like, people are human beings, no matter what the color of their skin is, no matter what, their accent is. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg, says that when she travels, she meets people that, of course, want to come to America because they want a better life. And that's something that we all want. And of course, we want them to do that legally. And I really hope that, if Trump and his administration can make the process to gain legal citizenship in this country easier, that's great. I don't feel like they'll necessarily do that, just from the last administration and the history of Republicans in this country, but I could be wrong. But I hope that his successor will focus on making. I'm born here. You guys can tell by my accent, I'm sure. But I was born and raised in the U.S., in the Midwest, actually. And I feel like if people want to come here and they do so, in the proper fashion, I feel like they absolutely should. But anyway, back to what Sunny and the Supreme Court Justice Sonia was saying, that now, and she wrote a dissent, and she just basically says that she encourages people to read not only what the justices who write affirmations, but also write those who write dissents. You want to read both sides. And again, you guys know that's what I try to do. I try to be as objective as possible. But this was a 6-3 decision. And it's heartbreaking. It really, truly is. Because now they've allowed the ICE agents to essentially stop people by just quote unquote looking a certain way, right? Like if they look like they're of Latin descent, if they have, or Hispanic, and if they have, an accent that doesn't sound like it's a native born American accent, then they can be stopped. And it just reminds me of that poem, first they came for, X, Y, and Z demographic, and then they came for me. Like, I don't feel like they're going to stop with just Latinos and Hispanics. But anyway, I felt like this was a really good show. The Supreme Court Justice Sonia, she's there to, promote her children's book. If you guys want to check that out, and she said that she wrote it with her mother in mind. But I mean, she comes from a Latino family. She comes from a Hispanic family who came to the U.S. for a better life, and now she's a Supreme Court justice. So I mean, the sky is the limit as long as we give people access to, quote unquote, the American dream. And that's to come here, of course, legally in the land of opportunity and work hard. And now she's, the head of the Supreme Court. So anything's possible. But anyway, I really enjoyed this show. You guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.